Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy SoSo, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for joining us. As always, make sure you're hitting that like, comment, and subscribe button. And more importantly, hit that notification button so you guys get notified when we drop hits like this. Today, Joel and I are breaking down the PFL 2024 playoff season going down this Friday at the Hollywood Hard Rock and Casino. We're also talking Dolphins preseason football, and we're wrapping it up with UFC 305. It's time to take a ride, y'all. Let's go. Yo, what's good, my dog? Good to see you.
Good to see you, my boy. As always, how you been?
I've been well, man. I've been well. You know me, working on the game, working on the upgrades little by little secret there, getting ready for Miami Golf Worlds 2025. Already mentally preparing.
And the boys are buzzing already, man. There's plans already in motion for next year, and people are getting hyped for MGBO 2025.
It's going to be another dope one, man. But yeah, got to play some golf this weekend, work on the game a little bit. It was only a quick night, but it felt good to get out there and work on the game differently, and try to improve some things. How about yourself, man?
Same, dog. Same. Got to spark it up with my brother yesterday. So, got a little 9 holes in. So that was got the fix in. I haven't been playing a lot lately, dog. I gotta go to the range. You can tell, dog. I haven't been playing lately.
It's hard. It's not, as much as we would want to play all the time, life happens to get in the way, priorities get in the way, and we make shit happen. But we're gonna try to find a way and to get back out there. We got to actually plan that ourselves, right? And get you and I out there on that 9-hole challenge.
Yeah.
We got a lot of things going on, bro. We got the Vic Garcia interview dropping this week. We dropped the interview last week with Jonathan Hernandez, head baseball coach at Bethune-Cookman.
Great interview, by the way, brother.
Appreciate that, bro. He's a great guy, bro, and he made it so easy, bro. And me and him go way back. So if you haven't got a chance to check that out, head on over to our YouTube page, hit that press play there. It's a good one. You don't want to miss it. Like I said, we got the Vic Garcia interview coming soon, and we also dropped that interview with Michael Dufault, one of the guys that's going to be fighting this Friday at the 2024 PFL playoff season, going down at the Hard Rock. And I'm excited, man. It's one of our first MMA events that we're going to be at a familiar venue, right? Still doing the same things we do, right? Bringing you those guys, behind the scene access, talking to some of the fighters, getting those post-fight interview questions up. And it's going to be exciting to see, man, because there's a lot at stake here. There's $1 million for the winner of this playoff tournament. And I'm sure all these guys are gunning for it.
Ah, man, all I know is it's going to be a long night.
For sure, it's going to be a long night, man.
I mean, it's our first one, dog. We want to take it all in, you know what I mean?
Right? So, right. PFL, man, they're definitely gaining steam, right? You'll be able to watch it Friday night on ESPN Plus if you have that. If not, you can purchase it there, or you can subscribe through the Zone and be able to watch it there as well. And you'll hear your boys throwing out those questions and being in the backdrop there. But it's cool, right, to do a big time MMA event, right, that has a promotional backing like ESPN, because these guys are bringing in talent that is, best in the world, and the roster may not be stacked, but the guys that do have fighting in this card, and they have usually fighting in the playoffs, are guys that you want to be aware of, right? Even in the main event, we got Impa Casagnaga. I suck at that last name.
Man, I was looking at that on the notes, and I was waiting for this moment.
Everybody
did a lot better than I thought.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sure I still murdered it. But he's one of those guys that has fought literally the best of the best, right? He's 3-1 in his last 4 fights. The only fight that he has lost has been to Johnny Eblin, who's obviously one of the main guys in that light heavyweight division over there at PFL. And when you carry that type of record, right, you're heading into, or let's say you carry that type of momentum heading into the playoffs, it always bodes well for you, right? But he's fighting a guy who's going to be very familiar to him, right? And it's actually going to be a rematch. He's fighting Josh Silveira for the second time. These two fought in the past. It was last year in 2023 with Impa dominating Josh for the 5 rounds, really dominated him on the ground, on striking, and he ended up winning with unanimous decision. But I wonder, what is Josh going to bring differently this time? Because although he may not feel as he's getting the respect he deserves, right? He should be going in there with the underdog mentality. And in fighting, bro, when you give an underdog a reason to go out there and perform and get a big victory, they usually come out and do it. So Impa has to be on his P's and Q's that night, man, because although he has that knockout power, Josh is coming with something to prove.
Everybody loves a good underdog story, dog, but it sounds like this one's a little bit lopsided just based on the previous match that you mentioned there. I don't know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. But a year, bro. If you think about it, Joel, a year in fighting is a long time, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you have a chance to go back and look at the tape, right? You have a chance to go back and kind of reset the program, see what works well, what doesn't work well, what are your flaws, how do you strengthen those flaws. And sometimes you need that, especially in professional fighting, right? You and I know a lot of guys who have taken some time off and then come back and to be a whole better version of that previous fighter, right? I'm wondering if that's going to be the case here with Josh. So I'm really excited for the main event. There's a lot of great fights on this card, man. Dufour, like we mentioned, he's going to be fighting in the lightweight division, the Canadian badass. Shout out to him for joining us. He's one of those exciting fighters, always coming forward. And even he told me in the interview, right, that he's learned so much from that loss that he got recently, because he came in there with too much hype. He came in there with too much momentum, and it didn't necessarily allow him to focus on what was important, right, which is obviously the fight at hand. But when, like I said, when you have guys coming back from losses specifically, it usually tends to be for the better. And I'm wondering if these guys are going to be able to bring that night. There's also a lot of hype around a young guy, right, coming up, making his name in the PFL, Biagio Ali Walsh, which is the grandson of the great Muhammad Ali. He's got 6 wins by KO, bro, and he's going out there finishing dudes and really standing out and making a name for himself, which is really hard to do when people rely on that information, right? Being the grandson of a great legendary boxer. I wonder how he's going to deal with the pressure because, as you continue to perform in that manner, there is going to be a drop off at some point. You're going to have to get into a long 5-round fight, or maybe you have to rely on a submission and not necessarily a knockout. So I'm kind of wondering what kind of mental complex details this guy is working with to kind of overcome that, right? And continue to put on a show, continue to be the guy who can answer the bell and knock dudes out, because that shit is not easy in MMA, man.
I mean, if his name is any indication, dog, this guy is set up to be a legend in this sport.
Yeah, man. And look, to make it to the playoffs, right? And be riding a winning streak like that in the lightweight division, like, there's a lot of talent in that division, and a lot of veterans in that division. So it means a lot, right? Obviously, and he's obviously getting put out there with the big names on a big show that they're putting on down here at the Hard Rock. So I'm interested to see what this dude's gonna bring, man. All these fights, bro, they mean so much because PFL has that one deciding factor that makes it a little bit different. People are fighting for purses, right? You're fighting for a big prize, $1 million to the winner of a tournament. That's a lot of money, in a profession where guys don't see those type of paychecks. Granted, the pointing system is a little unorthodox, right? The way that the PFL works, you get points for rounds, for knockouts, finishes, and stuff like that. So it's a little bit hard, but they do a good job of informing the newer customer or new reviewer that is tuning in for the first time and kind of explain it to them as they go along. But that doesn't mean that the talent or the skills that are being on display here in the PFL cards are not elites, right? And world elite at that. You're getting the best of the best, man. And this card is going to be exciting, and I'm excited to go out there and cover it with you, bro, and just see what that's like, right? See what the crowd is like, because we've seen it packed, full of energy for the BKFC event, and I'm wondering if PFL is going to be able to come in and match that.
Absolutely, man. We've seen a lot of energy in that building. And I mean, I've heard a lot of rumblings. We've heard a lot of rumblings of the PFL for a while. So my inclination is, that they're going to do pretty well, especially at the Hard Rock for something
Yeah.
like this. It's just a matter of, beginning to end. You know what I mean? We got to see, how many people are there for, the whole thing, or just kind of, straggle in towards the end or whatnot. But either way, I know we're going to have a great time covering it. Can't wait to bring everybody that action. So make sure you're following along.
Absolutely. Hitting that subscribe button, baby, that notification button, so you guys get notified when we hit them things up. Also got to mention, man, that They recently announced that Francis Ngannou is actually going to make his debut later this year in October. Obviously, he's fighting, as the main guy under the PFL banner. But the guy that he's fighting is a Brazilian giant who's not a joke. This guy's like 6'8". He's knocked out 7 of his last 8 opponents. A real badass, So I'm looking forward to that fight, man. And I'm looking forward to August 16th, Friday night, 9 p.m. Hard Rock and Casino. Don't miss it. Your boy Sports with SoSo. We're gonna be in the building and doing our thing. Let's talk about something that we're gonna be talking about a lot of in this next couple of months, and that's Dolphins football. More precise, right now we're talking Dolphins preseason football, but I feel like it's still important to keep these guys in the front of our minds, right? Because before we know it, the season is going to start and the expectations are going to be sky high, right? It's not like before where we didn't know what McDaniels was capable of, how the system was going to work, how Tua was going to look into, how Tyreek was going to fit into, how Waddle was going to, the defense. Now we got a clear picture of what's going on here in South Florida with this Miami Dolphins team, right? And what's expected of them. Granted, there are a lot of expectations, but we want to see it develop as early as preseason game number 1, which they ended up winning. Right, they beat the Atlanta Falcons 20-13 at the Hard Rock last week. And Jeff Wilson got a touchdown. Jalen Wright got a very impressive touchdown after a fumble recovery. And those were the 2 touchdowns of the game. Good for those guys, right? Jeff Wilson is a guy who's often forgot about when you have the amount of talent that we do at the wide receiver position. But I think that he's a guy who can add something, different than what the rest of the guys can add. Same thing goes with Jalen Wright, bro. He's in a stacked running back room right now, but he offers something different to this Dolphins team. I wonder what your takes are on those 2 guys.
I'm right there with you as far as Jalen Wright goes. In my opinion, this might be the last we see of Jeff Wilson in a Dolphins uniform. That's just my opinion. Because he still has good miles on him. He still, can contribute in any team. But when you look at what our running back room is, you still have Raheem Mostert, who, he's the statesman, the older statesman in the locker room. But you can't knock what he's done the last couple of years with the Dolphins as far as production goes. And then we've seen Devon Achane last year and his emergence and where he's going to be. We've seen glimpses of it. So you already have that 1-2 punch kind of right there. So there's only so many guys that we can have in that running back room. Jalen Wright, a guy we were big on, we drafted this year. Dude, he looked like the second coming of Ricky Williams, bro. This guy was not only fast and explosive, but strong, dog, and making moves and confident. Obviously, it's the preseason. Don't get ahead of yourself. I totally understand that. But just on that, the short sample size that I got, I was like, man, we got our 3-man running back room. Like Jeff Wilson, thank you, I appreciate it, but you know what I mean. We have no need. We can move on as far as business goes.
Right, for sure. And you're right. He still has a lot of tread on those tires. And I think that he can definitely help a team out. And he's not a guy who warrants, right, being on a practice squad. There's no way you can have that guy in the practice squad. Somebody's
an RB2. He's an RB2 on other teams.
100%. At the worst, RB3 on a championship level team, right? But I think that, Jalen Wright did more than enough to show why he belongs as one of the guys that we can count on for the future. Him and Achane are definitely the future of the running back room, right? And when we talk about future, we're talking the next 3 to 4 years easily, right? We're going to rely on those 2 guys to really carry the load and really make explosive plays and score a lot of touchdowns for this team and be the type of dynamic players that we need, right? It can't just be all coming from the wide receivers. One thing that you said that stood out to me was the aggressiveness, right? And when we talked about the joint practice, right, a lot of it was going to be about how aggressive are these guys, right? Yeah, it's okay for there to be a fight in practice or something like that, but what's the level of competition looking like, right? How are those guys responding to the aggressiveness of another man who's going up against them? And I liked what I saw. Right, everybody was playing hard. People were playing to the whistle. The tackling was really good for a bunch of second and third stringers, and that's because, in my opinion, these guys are being aggressive when they do do practice, right? One thing I heard this morning on the radio that kind of stood out to me is like they don't do sprints after practice. They don't necessarily run that much after just to get the legs going to do that part of the conditioning. But something that they do right as far as training camp goes is they go 120% in every drill. So there is no soft drill. You're getting hit hard. You're getting pushed to the ground. The guy that you're going up against is going 110%, and you're fighting literally in football sense, but like you're fighting for your position, fighting for that playing time, and you're getting that competition every day in a real
One
sense, not in the sense of just running.
one guy that comes to mind immediately just off that sentiment is Ethan Bonner. You know,
Yeah.
last week we were seeing, you know, clips and hearing rumblings of Ethan Bonner in practice, making plays. Jalen Waddle acknowledged him, said, man, that's one guy that people need to look out for. And
Mm-hmm.
it translated on the field against the Falcons. So you can
Yeah.
definitely see that it's, you know, early and there these guys are already fighting for, you know, their spots and to prove themselves.
Yeah, yeah, and you mentioned it. Like, look, they, in my opinion, all the DBs played enough, right? And they played well enough, and more importantly, they didn't look lost in the system, right? Which is super important. You want those guys who are going to be potential backups to know the system, be comfortable where they're supposed to be, make the right calls when it comes to coverage, make the right calls when it comes to shifting, right, and covering wide receivers. I think they did a great job of that. For the first time being out there. One thing I do want to mention were two other bright spots that caught my attention. Right, number one was Tanner Connor. He looked real healthy, right, coming back off his injury, and he looked like he could be of use. Right, he could, even though he would technically be the third tight end, right, that we would be carrying on the squad. I think he's worth it because he is dynamic, right? He played really well, and I think that he can be one of those guys that adds different value to this team. Another guy is a former fucking second round pick, Channing Tyndall.
Channing
He
Tindall.
played great. Yeah, yeah. Channing Tyndall played great. Really made sense why he got drafted as high as he did, why the Dolphins got him with the expectations of him being every down type of player for us. He had 7 tackles on the evening, 6 solo, had a sack, had a tackle for a loss. Like, the dude was grinding. And this is a guy, who can say, oh, well, I was a second round pick, so for sure they're going to get me in there and I'm going to play and I'm going to get my time. No, dude, you're also in one of the most stacked positions on this team, and the people who are stacked on it are real playmakers. You're gonna have to go out there and make a name for yourself and show why you deserve to be that second round pick. And he's carrying that weight on his shoulders like a man. And it's really nice to see that because we invested in him, obviously, and we want to see the return in the talent. Because if the defense can really get it together this year, bro, and be a top 5 defense, and you match that with a top 5, top 10 offense, you're going to be hard to beat every Sunday, right? And that's what the Dolphins are looking to be. Be a team that people are afraid of the physicality. People are afraid of the aggressiveness that we play with. And I'm hoping to see that continue to portray itself throughout the rest of the preseason, man. Um, you know, we have another joint practice this week with Washington Commanders. I hate saying that name, but whatever. Before we play them on Saturday night. And I
Hey, I'll
think
be
that
there.
yeah, nice, nice. We're gonna have to give you extra sports with SoSo stickers so you can put them all over the place.
Coverage,
Wait,
preseason coverage, baby.
scratch that. You know what? Delete that. Don't Hard Rock. I was just
Ah,
playing.
don't even worry
They're
about
not
it. They
gonna
won't know.
go find them. Go find them.
It's not as bad as
Uh,
what the Colombians and the Argentinians did.
Absolutely, for a fact. Uh, you know, I think I want to see that continue, right? That aggressiveness, that playing to the last whistle, playing every single down as hard as possible, to get conditioned to that physicality, especially when we're gonna need it towards the end of the season, right? Like I said, we're gonna snap our fingers and this preseason is gonna be over and it's gonna be the real time, real go time, So I wanna have that high level of aggressiveness, high level of physicality from day one.
What are your thoughts? This is something that I've been hearing rumors of, and I'm kind of excited since I'll be in attendance. But word on the street is that Tua will be starting this game and playing the first drive.
I want to see it. I want to see him out there with the guys. I want to see what the offense will look like, at least for a drive, right, or two. In my opinion, right, which is squat out here when it comes to the NFL, but in my opinion, it's good to get those reps, live reps, and see what goes right, see what goes wrong. A great point that was made to me, that stood out to me was the cohesion of the offensive line. Right now, we're still figuring out who's starting where, right? How do you get those reps in? Well, you got to have Tua back there taking the snaps. You got to have, Jalen right there. You got to have Achan in there. You got to have Mostert in there. You got to have all these dudes in there because you want those real game situations to happen now when you can work on it the most. You're not going to be able to work on it week one. So for me, I think that if we do it the second game, let them get a drive or two, right? Get the kinks out of the system, figure out what goes good, what goes bad, and then take that back into training camp. I think that's the right move, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about it.
I think I'm all right with him playing the first drive, but leave it at that. You know what I mean? Let him get the feel for it. If it's a 3 and out, so be it, dog. It is what it is. But if he does manage to keep a drive alive, let him have it, and then after that, just let him know, hey man, that's all you're getting. And then you can decide whether in the last preseason game, against Tampa, you want to play him for say a quarter or something like that. Then that's also that's more closer to the season. Right there, guys are going to be really battling it out. Like that third preseason game, it's usually pretty competitive sometimes. So
Let's see.
could be,
Let's
but
see.
I don't know, man. I'll be excited to see the boy. I'm excited for the game this Saturday. Let's go Dolphins.
Let's go Dolphins, man. Before we wrap them up, we got the crazy news of the weekend when it comes to the Dolphins.
Oh yeah,
Our main man,
this was
our
crazy.
main man, dog, from the U, the guy that we loved the most probably last year, dog, Jalen Phillips, removed from the physically unable to perform list. He's now full go at practice. To be honest, bro, I'm not sure how I feel about that right now.
How many
Or
months is he removed from the Achilles surgery?
I think it was something crazy like 7,
Yeah,
bro.
I think it's like
And
8 months.
yeah, like that's crazy, crazy fast recovery. Not saying
Wild.
that he's not capable of it, right? But how does that, you know, stability physically match with the stability mentally, right? Because to come off an injury like that, you got to be mentally cleared in your mind. The doctors can say whatever, but you need to be mentally clear in your mind to say, I'm going to be able to push this full send. I'm going to be able to go 120% every single play without fear of re-injuring myself. I hope he's at this level. Obviously, he must feel that way if he told the doctors he's ready to come back and they've seen the progress of his recovery. It's just impressive and a little bit shocking, right, that it happens so fast. But he's also a beast of an athlete, right? We've seen it before. The guy trains hard, eats well, keeps his body in shape year round. So it's not 100% surprising, but definitely a little bit of a shock.
It is. It definitely is surprising, bro. I mean, just how crazy the recovery is for these athletes these days, and the programs that we have, and all the
Yeah,
technology and medicine. It's really unreal, dog. I mean, I hope too early, but I kind of trust the process. If they're saying, hey, he's cleared and he's good to start getting in the mix, then so be it. We need him. We need him in there.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And look, Chop didn't play the first game, right? I'm sure they're gonna slowly bring back Jalen right into game action. Probably won't see him this Saturday, but you'll probably see Chop this Saturday, right? Because I know he missed the first game, and they're gonna have to put him in real game time situations as well. So interesting things to watch out for these next 2 preseason games for the Dolphins for sure. Let's talk about UFC 305 going down in Perth, Australia. Yeah, it's for sure 305. I don't know why I have 304 on my shit, dog.
Throwing everything off here, man. We might as well just throw
Hey,
this episode away and just start over.
nah, you know me, bro. I like to throw monkey wrenches, dog. If it ain't a monkey wrench, it ain't me.
304. It's in Perth, Australia. So
No,
what time?
305 is legit
Oh,
305.
UFC 305. The why they didn't do it in Miami is beyond me. But what
That's
time is this
wild.
taking place?
At 10 p.m. Eastern time. Facts. I just checked it and I
Okay.
confirmed it. Yeah. So obviously they're gonna be fighting in daytime in Australia. Might be a little bit earlier than what they're accustomed to, but I'm guessing that 10 p.m. start works fine with how people are gonna be able to watch it out there in
It's big for the
Australia,
pay per
mate.
view, man. It's big for the pay per
Yeah,
view.
absolutely, bro.
Down
But in the
under.
main down on that. In the main event, we got Dracus Duplessis versus Israel Adesanya
Oh, the
for
battle
the
for
middleweight
Africa.
title fight, the battle for South Africa supremacy, man. And obviously these two have gone at it with each other, right, on social media, in person. Adesanya doesn't feel that Duplessis really represents what South Africa is about. Duplessis has called out Izzy on a bunch of other stuff when it comes to being from South Africa and repping it. But one thing that Duplessis can definitely hold his head on is that he's undefeated in the UFC, right? He's 7-0, has 2 knockouts in his last 3 fights, and is a guy who's a legit contender when it comes to being able to beat the best of the best in the middleweight division. That's how he got the belt. He was able to beat Sean Strickland after Strickland got it off of Izzy. But if we're talking about Izzy, right, we're talking about one of the best MMA fighters we've ever witnessed when it comes to UFC. This is crazy, dog. This is gonna be his 12th straight title fight in the UFC, bro.
Damn.
That just means you're a certified killer and badass at the same time. Because like to get to the belt and then to keep fighting for the belt, whether you win or lose it, or you go up and down a division, it says a lot about you as a fighter, right? And this is why I say Izzy is one of the greatest MMA fighters that we've been able to witness, right? Just on stuff like this alone. But he's one of those guys that took time off, and we mentioned that earlier in the episode, right? The importance of taking time off after a fight. He said he wanted to take some time off after the Strickland fight, which he did, and he didn't fight for a while. He was offered 2 fights, and he shot them both down. But then when the opportunity came around to fight Duplessis for the belt, and he saw him win, and he was like, "Nah, this is the guy I want to take it away from." And I think that that's important, right? Besides taking the time off, you have to find the right fight. You have to find the right motivation and the right reason to jump back in there at that moment's notice and say, "This is why I want to do this." And I think that Izzy has his on his side now, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him walk away with the victory.
I mean, I wouldn't mind it. I'm a big fan of Style Bender, dog.
For
So,
sure.
but Duplessis is he's a problem, dog. You said
He's
it.
a
He's
legit
undefeated.
problem.
So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
know
With
that.
knockouts, real knockout power.
Yeah, and we know that Izzy isn't unbeatable. We've seen him lose a few times now. So yeah, it's gonna be a good one. Definitely gonna be a must watch as far as UFC goes. What else we got on that card
Absolutely.
though?
On that card, we also have Tai Tuivasa, the drinker of beer from the shoe. He's taking on Rosenstrike, Jorginho Rosenstrike. And Ty needs this fight. He's on a 4-fight losing streak. He's
Wow.
gotten knocked out a couple of times. Yeah, and he hasn't been able to build that momentum off the little bit of hype that he had. For Rosenstrike, it's also an important fight, right? He's won 2 of his last 3 fights. He's looking to come out and make that back-to-back victories, especially with a guy who's losing, right, or on a losing streak. You definitely don't want that to derail. You want to kind of use him as a stepping stone in order to get a better fight early next year. And Rosenstrike has power, and these two guys are going to be looking to knock each other out, which is always exciting when you get to see heavyweights going at it. We also have Mateus Gamrot versus Dan Hooker in the lightweight division. It's a title eliminator battle. These guys are fighting for top 5 position in that division. Garmo has some serious hype, and he's backed it up. He's 7-1 in his last 8 fights, and 2 of them have been knockouts. So he's a guy who's obviously not a man to play with, but Dan Hooker is one of those guys that can really bring the fight when the odds are stacked up against him. Hooker hasn't fought since 2023, July 8th. So this is a guy who's got injured, taking some time off, found his weaknesses, worked on them, got back and decided, all right, now I'm ready to jump back into that octagon and throw myself into that top 5 title contention battle in the lightweight division. So those are 3 fights that I'm really looking forward to this Saturday, man. UFC 305 out in Perth, Australia. Make sure you guys are tuning into that one. That's going to be a great one for the late night crew.
Yeah, I'll definitely be tuning in after the Dolphins game. That's for sure. I'm gonna be
Right.
hyped. My adrenaline's gonna be high from the Dolphins' victory in the preseason. And I'll be like, all right, now let's spread some money around into these UFC fights, baby.
Yeah, right. We gotta hit the money. Give me my money.
I mean, I'm already thinking that Dan Hooker fight, bro. No, I'm sorry, Dan, but you haven't fought since 2023, and you're like 1 billion years old in the UFC. It's not looking good for you, my
Yeah, we're
boy.
putting our money on
I'm putting
Gamrot.
on camera, dog. Ah.
No disrespect though, you know what I'm saying? I might just
Sorry,
throw $5 on Dan, to cover the
just hedge
spread
your
for the
bet.
evening. Yeah, why not? One more thing that we got to mention as an honorable mention. Well, actually, 2 more things. The first one I'm gonna just glaze over real quick. The
I know what this
Marlins cleared
is.
house with the GM firing. I don't even want to mention his name, but he fired a bunch of front office positions, director of scouting, international scouting, just a hitting coach, batting coach, like pitching coach, everybody that he can get rid of that was tied to the old regime, he did, which just states that right now we're going in a completely different direction. a new direction. I'm curious to see what it turns out right into. This guy has a lot to work with. He's coming from a very reputable franchise. When you're talking about Tampa Bay, they've won his World Series. They've produced a bunch of talent. They've grown a bunch of natural talent, and they've been competitive. That's what's at stake here for him. And these moves are never going to shine, brightly on you, but you got to make the best of it. And I'm hoping that he does. And I'm going to leave it at that for the Marks.
Next.
The season's almost over for those guys. Thank God.
Almost.
Yeah,
almost.
You know what I
Just
mean? Officially
because
over.
the rest of the league is still playing doesn't mean our season isn't over, dog.
You know what I mean, man. You know what I mean. Last thing I want to mention is Canes football is right around the corner, man. Saturday, August 31st, 3:30 p.m. They're going to be up in the Swamp taking on the Florida Gators. Top 25 is on the line for both of these teams, right? If they have any hope of making the top 25. The Hurricanes obviously coming in with a lot of hype, a lot of good things surrounding them. Cam Ward, we've talked about him, his impact. Martinez, his impact. I'm just hoping to see that these guys can actually finally put it together. I will say this: all the reports that I'm getting from my insiders is that Cam Ward is really bought in. And if you get the quarterback to buy into the program, usually that bodes well for the rest of it. But let's see, man. I'm tired of talking about a let's see with the Canes. I want to be shown.
They got to earn it. They got to go out there and earn it from us.
They got to earn it, man. They got to earn it, bro. But thankfully, you guys don't have to earn it from us. We're going to keep bringing you these episodes, bringing you these dope-ass interviews. We got so much in store for you. I didn't even mention 365 Flag Football 5-on-5 Championship. We're going to be bringing you that, too. Shout out to Empire Boutique. Shout out to 365 Flag Football. Shout out to Death Row and Why So Serious. Those boys put on a real good game. It was a hell of a comeback victory, too, man. Can't wait to show you guys. You guys know what to do. In order to watch that, you got to tell a friend.
To tell a friend.
To tell another friend.
To tell everybody they know.
To tell everybody they know about this amazing show and what we got going on here. Make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. And more importantly, that notification button so you guys get notified when we drop hits like this. Till next time. Peace.
Peace.